Spirits Alive. Join your host, John Tobin, as he and his guest co-host bring you cutting-edge interviews and topics in the paranormal world. Founder of Glory Haunt Hounds, John's interest in the paranormal began after several out-of-body experiences as a child and escalated when he witnessed his first full-bodied apparition. John's love of history and preserving the haunt has fed his radio and speaking career, and now he shares his knowledge and experience with you to assist him in keeping the spirits alive. Now, here is your host of Keeping the Spirits Alive, John Tobin, on WGOG Digital Broadcasting.
Hey, welcome back to another edition of Keeping the Spirits Alive. I'm your host, John Tobin. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Sorry it's been a little bit of a wait, but I promise it's going to be well worth the wait with this week's show. I'll tell you a little bit about my guest here in just a few minutes, but as mentioned in the intro, guest co-host. This week we don't have a co-host. I'm doing the second show in a row solo, but there may be some guest co-hosts in the future, so stay tuned for exciting announcements about upcoming guests and guest co-hosts. So that'll be a lot of fun. So hope everybody's been doing well. We're just wrapping up the winter, and it's been nice weather here the last couple days. We are rapidly approaching spring, which is one of my favorite times of the year, spring and fall, and we'll throw in a little summer in the middle there for good measure, but not a winter guy, so a little bit of the winter doldrums, and I think a lot of people get those. Doldrums is the non-paranormal term for something more deep. Maybe we'll talk about that with our guest tonight, and how the weather and certain times of the year and even certain times of the day can affect the psyche of us, and how that connects to the spiritual world. So that'd be something interesting I'd love to talk a little bit about. But I hope all of you are doing well, and I hope that you've been doing good and keeping out of trouble. You can remember, just because the winter is almost over, Santa is still watching. So be good, folks, and remember to always eat your Wheaties. Start your day very well that way. And that was we're not even sponsored by Wheaties, so eat whatever thing you like to eat in the morning. You can eat your Vegemite if you're in Australia, if you so choose. So whatever you wish. First, I want to tell you a little bit about our guest tonight, and then I'm going to get to a little segment I like to do, because there's a lot of sad news. There's a lot of bad news. There's even some happy news. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of weird news, and we don't often get to appreciate the weird news, because whatever news source you listen to, whether it be mainstream news or cable news or radio news or fake news or whatever news of the day that catches your interest, you're probably not hearing these stories. So I have dug through my deep tunnel of the internet, the interwebs, scraped it through, found the dark websites, the ones that you're not supposed to see, got through all those, and then found my weird news stories. So after all that, my research and my hard work is paying off, and I'm going to share it with you guys tonight. So it's a very popular segment. I love it. So that's how I know it's popular, because I love it. So there you go. And if you don't like it, well, you're probably not listening to my show right now, because it's something I do every time I have one. So how about that? Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about my guests today, because they are definitely the highlight of the show. Much more interesting than weird news, fake news, news of other kinds, and the weather. So the guests tonight are great friends of mine, folks that I've had the privilege of being close friends with for many years now, that I met several years back. Well, probably back towards the beginning of my start in the public side of the paranormal. Guests tonight are two mutual friends who have connected themselves throughout the years, and have formed a very special partnership and bond together, and very, very happy to have Rosalyn Bown and Michael Lewis tonight on the show. I'll tell you a little bit about both. You're probably already familiar with Rosalyn and perhaps with Michael as well, but in case you're not, just give you a little bit of background here. Rosalyn Bown is, as you probably know, a former cast member of SyFy's Ghost Hunters Academy. She also appeared in the documentary film Surviving Evidence and the television series Paranormal After Party. She joined her first ghost research team way back in 1999, and she partied like it was 1999 as well. She did act as an assistant director at a local T.A.P.S family group for several years. She's conducted hundreds of ghost investigations, probably thousands. She's probably being modest, but anyway, and has given dozens of lectures on a variety of paranormal topics. And by dozens, she means probably hundreds. But again, Roz is very modest. Rosalyn's focus has always been on helping others. Her background in psychiatric nursing and in customer service gave her a particular insight into the minds and motivations of both the living and the dead. She's a Reiki Master, an Angel Therapy Practitioner, a psychic medium, and has helped families resolve the crises associated with disruptive paranormal activity. And speaking as a friend of Roz's, she's very good at disruptive non-paranormal activity, too, as far as encouraging people to not participate in that, or maybe to participate in that. I don't know. We'll get into that a little bit later, too. Michael Lewis has long been drawn to spiritual and religious experiences, and he's been fascinated with how paranormal phenomena affect and reflect those experiences. His first brush with those mysteries, occurred during high school when a family friend related testimony and showed evidence of an extreme haunting. You may have heard of this family friend, but we are not discussing him this particular evening, but we could. There was a formative experience for Michael in shaping his view of life and afterlife of the human soul. He's been a member of several philosophical and paranormal groups over the past 30 years, with experience in ghost communication, meditation, spiritual healing, and angel card readings, which we will talk about tonight. His love of music has led to several band projects over the years. He's currently honing, right? Probably housing himself, but honing his craft as a singer-songwriter. He's worked in education for the past 20 years and currently has a role developing job skills and experiences for special education students, which also greatly helps if you're going to be my friend in understanding what the special education needs are. Plays a key role in getting along with John Tobin. And that means that's not meant as a disservice to anybody, just myself. So don't take offense to that because I'm just being silly. But anyway, we will have Rosalyn and Michael on in just a few minutes. So I just wanted to get you excited for that. We're going to talk to them about some cool things, how they developed their interest in the paranormal field separately and also jointly. And then also, something that they're doing together. They are lecturing together now, which I have yet to see, but I'm really interested in catching sometime hopefully this spring or summer. So we'll talk about what their plans are there and how you guys can see them as well. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, I know Rosalyn mentioned, and I mentioned in her little bio about Angel Therapy, and we're also Angel Therapy Practitioner and also Angel Card Readings that Michael and Rosalyn do together. And perhaps you, the lucky listener, might get a brief Angel Card Reading tonight. So if anyone's in our chat room that would be interested in such a reading, speak up. And worst case scenario, if you're all being shy, maybe I can convince our producer Todd to come in a little reading later on, but we'll see what happens with that. But before we get to Roz and Mike, let's talk a little bit about some of those weird news stories that I like to tell you guys about. I heard, I didn't have this one written down, but our guest last month was Karen Matowski, the great comedian, and she and I had a great time with the weird news stories. And she actually posted one on her wall on Facebook, I think it was this morning or yesterday, and it cracked me up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of troll her wall real briefly, because it's kind of funnier than any of the stories I had prepared. So sort of this is what we call in the biz improving here. So bear with me for just a moment. They don't really call that. Even improv isn't this far behind. So give me just a second. Where is this story? Oh, this is great. Okay. So just recently, this was actually a story published by Apple News. Just this past week, LA police, LAPD, had discovered a stolen car. The stolen car appeared to be very old. They traced down the stolen car and realized that it was the stolen car of Amelia Earhart, which was found in Los Angeles just this past week. So Karen's comment was, for those of you that had a car stolen in LA, this will give you a rough time frame as when to expect to get it back. So they found Amelia Earhart's car. They still can't find her. But there's progress since they did find her car, so that's a bonus. Anyway, on from finding Amelia Earhart's car, which I thought was pretty cute and funny. This is a news story out of Switzerland. I don't know if any of the listeners out there were watching could be listening to, but watching the Winter Olympics. My wife and I had a lot of fun watching the Winter Olympics. It's fun to see people from all around the world participating in many different winter sports. And it's also good to sit in the house where it's really warm and watch other people freeze their butts off, which is a fun thing that I like to do that anyway. So I look outside and watch people play outside, and I say, look, it's the Olympics, but not really. So one of my favorite pastimes. But anyway, back to Switzerland. The Lucerne University of Applied Sciences, not scientists, and Arts in Switzerland has a new course of study for scholars to pursue. It's a bachelor's or master's degree in yodeling. Beginning in the 2018-19 academic year, students will be able to major in the traditional form of singing, which was used by Swiss herdsmen to communicate with each other in the mountains. The BBC reported that prize-winning yodeler Nadja Ross will lead the course, which also includes musical theory and history. We've long dreamed of offering yodeling at the university, gushed Michael Coffin, head of the school's music department. So I'm going to invite my friend Michael Lewis to join me in some yodeling and see if maybe we can get into the college. It's always good to try for a scholarship, so I'll give it a shot at yodeling. That's my shot there. So maybe I won't quit my day job. But anyway, you can get a degree in it, so I might have to practice. Anyway, on to the United States, where police in Longsport, Indiana, finally caught up with the thief that has been targeting churches in the area since January 16th. First of all, we've had a lot of weird news stories over the last couple months. People are doing bad things in churches. And I just want to say, not an overly religious person, but, I do believe in karma, and I believe in higher power. And I think that if you're going to mess around and do bad things, probably not picking a church is a good idea. But in this particular case, if your name is the name of the person in Kanawha, Indiana, I'll read us the story, then we'll get to his name. He was charged with breaking into 5 houses of worship and stealing cash. Bad idea. According to the Longsport Pharaoh's Tribune. After he was apprehended on January 23rd, just moments before the 5th burglary at Rehoboth Christian Church, was discovered by police. The man caught for this crime, his name was Christian J. Alter. So if your name is Christian Alter, you probably shouldn't steal from churches, because the irony alone will get you caught. Maybe he just thought there's no possible way anyone named Christian Alter is going to be suspected of robbing churches. But I'm telling you, that's the last thing I would do if that was my name. Just saying. All right, on to the next story. Last month's story was funnier. Maybe because someone had Karen on here just laughing along, making me feel better. She's so nice. Anyway, on to Saugatuck, Michigan, where attorney Michael Haddock's dog Ryder probably gave the mail carrier a day off after receiving an unexpected letter on January 27th from the State of Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency. According to WZZM-TV, Haddock opened the envelope addressed to Ryder and found a letter saying that Ryder is eligible for $360 per week in unemployment benefits. I knew he was clever, Haddock said of Ryder, but he surprised me a little bit this time. The ULA admitted that its computer did send the notice to Ryder, but it was later flagged as suspicious, and that the German Shepherd will not receive any benefits after all. Now, this leads me to another controversial subject, because I just recently watched the Westminster Dog Show, and in the Westminster Dog Show, there is a working class of dogs. There's actually a Rick Springfield album called Working Class Dog. So if these are truly working dogs, why are they not eligible for unemployment benefits? I'll tell you what, I work with some people who shouldn't be eligible for unemployment benefits, and the dogs probably work a lot harder than they do. But that was my commentary, not part of the story. Just my thoughts there. Anyway, on to a story out of jolly old England. Yes, it's out of England. Anybody out there do any metal detecting? Metal detecting is something that's been, popular for, 100 years, maybe longer. I'm not really sure of the history of metal detecting, but it's something that's become quite popular over the years and continues to be today. Well, rookie metal detectors Andy Sampson and Paul Adams were out looking for treasure along the Suffolk-Essex border in England when they came across more than 50 gold coins and pottery. Sampson and Adams started shouting and jumping around and dancing. As for himself, Sampson immediately started figuring out how he would spend the money, which the pair thought might amount to about £250,000 or more. Alas, when Sampson showed the coins to his neighbor, he said, "They're not real. There's something wrong with them." Sure enough, when the treasure hunters made inquiries, they found out that the coins and pottery were props for a BBC TV show called Detectorists. Sampson and Adams told the BBC on January 31st that they had got over their huge disappointment and will continue to metal detect. Again, irony in its true form. You get rich metal detecting from props on a show called Detectorists. Oh. Well, better luck next time. I'm going to end the news segment here with one story. Let me find one that I think is actually pretty good. Let's see. Got a lot of gamers listening. I know Rosalyn and Michael are familiar with gamers, and they enjoy a game every now and then. But just as a word of caution to the gamers out there, staff at an internet cafe in the Xinjiang province of China had to call paramedics on January 28th when a gamer lost all feeling in his lower limbs after playing the same game for more than 20 hours straight. Newsweek reported that the unnamed man didn't realize that he'd become paralyzed until he tried to use the restroom and couldn't move his legs. But of course, as any good gamer would, as he was being carried out on a stretcher, he was heard begging his friends to finish the game for him. There you go. Don't ever give up, folks. Never give up. All right. That's News of the Weird for today. Oh, you know what, Todd? I didn't do my News of the Weird intro. Things just wouldn't be right without the News of the Weird intro. So what was that segment that we just listened to, Todd?
News of the Weird.
Excellent. And as we're going to do the rest of the show completely in reverse going forward, it's going to be great. After we talk to Michael and Rosalyn, we'll actually play the commentary and audio in reverse for the replay show. And you'll never know. It's going to be a completely different show. Totally different messages involved in this. It'll be brilliant. Going to go down in history. We press it on vinyl, be on albums. It'll be all the rage. I'm going to call it the White Album. Oh, no, it's already been. Never mind. Maybe we won't do that. All right. Well, in this case, I think everyone, including myself, is just about ready to bring on our guests. But in just a minute or so here, we do have our very first station break. So it makes a lot of sense for us to bring the guests on right after our station break. So I will just finish with one little quick tidbit since we have about 60 seconds before the break. What do I want to tell you before we go on the break? Let's see here. Oh, here's a good one. I'll tell you about how Michelle Myers of Buckeye, Arizona suffers from blinding headaches. But it's what happens afterwards that recently had her doctor stumped. Myers, who's never been out of the United States, has awakened from the headaches 3 times in the last 7 years with a different foreign accent. The first time it was Irish. The second was Australian, and they both lasted only about a week. But Myers' most recent event, which was 2 years ago, left her with a British accent that she still has today. Doctors have diagnosed her with foreign accent syndrome, a rare condition that usually accompanies a neurological event such as a stroke. Myers told ABC that the loss of her normal accent makes her sad. I feel like a different person. Everybody I know only hears or sees Mary Poppins. Very sorry for your foreign accent disorder, Mary, or whatever your name was, Michelle. But sometimes that's the way it goes. So we'll be right back after the station break. Stay tuned for Keeping the Spirits Alive here on letstalkradio.net with Rosalyn Bown and Michael Lewis just after the break. Thanks, and we'll be right back.
Listening to Keeping the Spirits Alive with John Tobin and Chip Reichenthal. Stay tuned for more of the best in paranormal radio. Preserving history, one spirit at a time. Shopping, dining, beautiful lakes and rivers, and a monster? Welcome to Braxton County, West Virginia. Centrally located, Braxton County, West Virginia is the ideal place to visit. Natural beauty and recreation abound with 2 beautiful lakes for easy kayaking and canoeing, and many hiking trails. Did we mention the Flatwoods Monster? That's right. Visit Braxton County, West Virginia's Flatwoods Monster Museum and not only learn about the Flatwoods Monster, but walk in the same footsteps as the people who witnessed it. Nearly all of our attractions can be found within a few miles of Interstate 79. Visit us online at braxtonwv.org. That's braxtonwv.org. Braxton County, West Virginia. Center yourself here.
Your Monday nights just got better. Tune in to ParatalkRadio.com. We are your paranormal talk. On the air, on the web, and in the field. We have guests from all over the paranormal world. We discuss ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. Check us out on Facebook Live on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern at facebook.com/Paratalk Radio. Remember, wherever there is darkness, there is always the light. ParatalkRadio.com.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has delivered a one-of-a-kind reading experience, covering everything from psychics, UFOs, paranormal investigations, and more. To subscribe, visit fatemag.com or call 828-702-3032. That's 828-702-3032. Subscribe and find your true reports of the strange and unknown at fatemag.com.
1,000 pigeons sitting on our tower can't be wrong.
And hundreds of people stopping by our station with Hawaiian shirts sort of notice us.
Don't fly away. Stay right here at Let's Talk Radio for the best talk, news, and entertainment.
No birds were actually harmed in this announcement, although we have had a few thoughts.
WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk. Welcome back to Keeping the Spirits Alive here on letstalkradio.net. I'm your host, John Tobin. Thanks again for joining us this week. In just a second, I'm going to bring on our guests, Rosalyn Bown and Michael Lewis. Thanks for being patient and listening to my weird news for the week. I hope you enjoyed that segment. Let me know and give me some feedback if you like the segment, if you don't like the segment, if you'd like to hear something else, if you have some ideas for guest co-hosts going forward. Heck, if you'd like to be a guest co-host going forward, let me know. Let's talk about it. Great. So now coming up on the show, Before, I just want to make a quick station note, too, before I forget. Haunted Voices Radio will not be on following me tonight as normal, but will return next week. So I just wanted to let you guys know that Haunted Voices Radio and Todd will return next week at its regularly scheduled time, just following Tuesday night's Keeping the Spirits Alive at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Anyway, just want to let you guys know that, so thank you. Let's welcome to the show now Rosalyn Bown and Michael Lewis. Hey, guys, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Ross.
How's everyone?
Mike, how are you?
Very nice, very nice.
Very nice, excellent. And before we start with some questions I have for you guys, neither one of you are currently suffering from foreign accent syndrome, correct?
Well, that's not entirely correct.
That could be a little bit happening over here. But, we're not really sure. We're looking into it.
Rosalyn, correct me if I'm wrong. That's more on the line of split personality disorder.
It's a little of both. And it's funny. You asked if either of us was suffering from it. Honestly, he's experiencing it, but I'm the one that's suffering.
Oh, see that? It's a group shared, not illness, but malfunction. Brain malfunction of sorts, I guess.
That doesn't sound fair. Preposterous.
Ross, to be fair to Michael, you're welcoming your own suffering here because he's still sitting next to you, from what I know.
So far.
Okay. So, Ross and Mike, I was talking a little bit about some of the things that you guys have done in the past and what you're doing more recently. Before I get into the questions, can you tell our audience a little bit about what you and Michael do together when you go to a convention or a paranormal speaking event? What would they expect if they were to come see you this summer?
Oh, well, we have on several of our appearances, we have been given the honor and privilege of giving lectures. And our approach is that anyone could open a book and find information. So our presentations, we like to be a little bit more experiential. If there happens to be practices, exercises, if the audience has and participants have feedback and experiences, that really it's a style that's worked well with both of our personalities, because every time you set something definitive and think you've got all the answers, it seems like something comes along and expands your boundaries. So it feels a little more natural to say, these are some of our thoughts, and this is some of the things that we like to employ when we're, last year we were talking about practical psychic protection for everyday life. And I think we still might roll that one out a couple times this year too, because there's a large component to where people, us included, can neglect our spiritual side in the daily grind, let alone if you're a Ghostbuster and whatnot. So yeah, that's one of the things that I really have enjoyed in our appearances.
And another thing we've been doing is we do angel card readings together. And you mentioned that earlier during the introduction, but that's something that it's interesting the way we do it, because we call it one mindset, but what is it? We do it?
One reading, two mindsets.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. We will draw cards for people, and each of us gives our input as to what we're getting from those cards. And we kind of see where it fits. We tend to be on the same page, but we really want to get the feedback from the person we're reading for. We want to see what resonates. We want them to get the correct message that they're intended to get. And it's really been wonderful. We've gotten great feedback, and we feel like we've been able to help guide some people in a really positive direction.
No, that's great. And what I think that the field needs more of is more positivity. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and I think I'm seeing a lot more of it now. And the fact that you guys are going out there and kind of spreading the positive messages and helping people, you've always been interested in helping people, but how you can further do it and outside of the realm of a paranormal investigation is really fascinating. And when I caught wind of the angel card readings and stuff, it really caught my ear. And I was just I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Roz, I do have a couple questions for you and Mike separately outside of that, and then we can get more into that if you don't mind. Back a few years ago, Roz, I had you on the original Keeping the Spirits Alive, and it was one of my favorite interviews that I ever did, and we've talked about it a few times. Previously, we talked about some of the out-of-body experiences that you had and some of your intuitiveness, and I asked you back then, I think, about if you'd ever drawn a connection between those types of experiences and the path that your life has led you down. Now, 4 or 5 years ago, your life might have been in a different place than it is now. So I kind of wanted to go back to that question and say, some of the experiences that you've personally had in your life that are considered paranormal, such as astral projection and your intuitive nature and things that have brought you down the path that you've come to and being a medium. The path of life that you're on right now, how do you feel that connects you to where what you've done? How does your past connect you to your present and your future, do you feel?
It's interesting. I have this foundation in paranormal, things that began when I was a very young child. I would have premonitions. So I would have this awareness, this knowledge of things that were going to happen before they occurred. And it was things that were almost 90%. It was something negative that was going to happen to a family member, usually happened within 24, 48 hours. And I came from a family that wasn't open to it. It took various accounts from me of saying this is going to happen, and then them seeing the result before they actually started to listen to me. But so, it's not like I grew up in this paranormal friendly environment. And going forward, when I first started going off and being a paranormal investigator, it was helpful to me because I feel like most times when you encounter people, especially back then before the paranormal TV shows, the first things people would say to you is, all right, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I experienced XYZ. So I like that I come from a background that wasn't initially recognized or wasn't initially accepted. I like that I had some experiences that were pretty scary, some things that really made me uncomfortable, that actually frightened my family. I'm glad that I have all of those experiences because now I can connect with people on that level. I can talk to people that really need help and that aren't getting the support they need, or families that feel like they're starting to split apart a bit because the activity in the home is so toxic and so destructive. So, that's kind of the background. And yeah, it's funny, like you say, we change. We seem to go through incarnations in our life every few years where we are now is far different from where we were 5-10 years ago. But every time I look back, it seems, I think, wow, everything I've experienced up until now has led me here. So
that's great. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. And when I said out-of-body experiences, I meant to say premonitions. In my head, we talked about how we both had those premonitions, and I think the premonitions lead to intuitiveness. And I think in your case, in my case, and probably many others, I think that we've experienced that premonition has led to our psyche developing an intuitiveness over the years. And I sort of freak Kathy out sometimes. She's very much a skeptic, but I will say things to her like in a funny sense, like we'll be, it's hard for me to have confidence to pinpoint it, but we'll be like calling numbers at bingo at the local American Legion, and I'll say they're going to call bingo on the next number, and then like 10 times, and they do it, and she freaks out, and it's weird like that. But then she always thinks I'm just lucky, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, but it's funny how one of the hardest things I've always had was finding the self-confidence to believe my own intuition. Have you ever had any struggles with that? And how do you trust your own intuition as not just being a thought in your head?
That's kind of the biggest challenge for me, because if you talk to people that are familiar with paranormal or psychic abilities, there's different psychic strengths, like people who are said to be clairvoyant. Clair means clear. So there are people who see more clearly. They're more likely to see a ghost. I'm somebody who have very rarely seen anything, but I'm more claircognizant. Which means I just know things. And it's kind of tricky because when you are clairvoyant, you're more likely to see, or if you're somebody who's clairaudient, you're more likely to hear voices. It almost has a physical thing to it. It's something you experienced. But when you're claircognizant, when things just come to you, you're always second guessing. You're always wondering, was that my imagination? Was I just thinking of that song and then suddenly it came on the radio? Was it a coincidence? I mean, you're always questioning. And I think that's a good thing. What I've learned to do is to sort of challenge things. So if I get a sense and a feeling, it's hard to explain how, but the only way I can put it is I sort of poke at it to see if it's real. I go by feel. Does this feel authentic? And doing that has really helped me to learn when something is either a premonition or if it's just a random thought.
That's a great point. I think the key is just sort of going with the thought, not being afraid to say it. So if occasionally you don't hit it on the spot, more than likely, I found at some point, whatever the message was that may not have come out clearly, comes out clearly later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael and I both have experienced that, where it's the phenomenon of like psychic amnesia. So when you're trying to do a reading for someone and you're bringing up something very specific that's coming through to you, and then keep saying no, no, no. And we always tell people, listen, we don't want you to agree with us. We don't want you to try to make us feel good. This reading is for you. If we're not interpreting the message properly, then tell us. But sometimes it's so clear, and we tell them, you know what? Just file it away and think on it later. And honestly, oftentimes people will go home and go, oh my gosh, you're okay. Now I get it. I can't believe it. But this hit exactly on so-and-so, my Uncle Bob, and I forgot that he was in the military or whatever it was. But sometimes in the moment, they don't remember, but later they do. And when you talk about confidence, that's the thing. You have to have faith in the information you're getting. If you let a no shake your confidence, then it's going to be harder to get that message through. So, yeah, we definitely work on just accepting, giving the information, and moving on.
Great. Yeah, that's excellent advice. So thank you for that. Michael, I've got a question for you. Worked for years, as I mentioned in your bio earlier, worked for years in the education field, working with special education students. And so developing your skills there and working with people in that way. How do you feel like working with students and young people has helped you to help others in the paranormal world?
Oh, wow. That's I like your thoroughness and kind of thinking about us as people and in totality. I think that I always knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know exactly how that was going to come about. And in my 20s, I started working as a volunteer in a lot of youth group experiences. And just that kid-like energy, obviously I definitely have a strong sense of humor, and I connect with that. And I think on an almost daily basis for all my years in education, if I can think of the challenge in front of me and not be frustrated by it, but try and think of it as a person in need, and use my heart and use my my feeling of connection to divine, to have more empathy and take it less personally, then it's just amazing how that can open up the student in front of you and the staff person that is in the room with you to change and growth. And it's interesting. There's some human service fields where you hear the term burnout or getting burned out, more appropriately, whether it's caseworkers for the county or teachers, people in the medical profession. And 15, 20 years in, I don't feel burned out. I feel on a daily basis happy to be able to do what I do and to be where I am. So I think that really, if I analyze it as your question leads me to, goes back to the spiritual side and goes back to feeling that there's a reason for all this, and that through me, good work is happening.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a kind of what I was thinking, that they would connect in that way. And I have a question for both of you guys, and then in a few minutes we'll take our last station break and we'll come back and do an angel card reading if you guys are up to it. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Great. I want to know, because from my background, I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you believe, or do you have any feelings, and I'll ask both of you, what people who've experienced great tragedy in their lives or traumatic experiences, do you think that they are more susceptible to having paranormal experiences, and why would you think so or not?
It's interesting. It's one thing that actually Michael and I have talked about a bit. He just knows, of course, he knows me so well because we're so very connected, but he has seen me react just on a daily basis. I'm very vigilant. I'm someone who's had some traumas in my childhood, and he likes to refer to it as my survivor mentality, where I'm almost hyper vigilant, very aware. It's almost a protective thing. So I think if you are somebody who has experienced trauma and very difficult experiences, you may actually almost develop that awareness that may actually inadvertently help you tap into more of your senses that, we believe we all have these psychic abilities, just a lot of us aren't aware. So if you're somebody who relies on being aware of your environment, you might be more likely to experience some things.
And Mike, I'd like to get your take on that. Do you have any thoughts about tragedy and trauma causing either paranormal experiences or maybe even a psychic connection?
I do believe that sometimes you almost have to be tested to find out what's inside, and that we don't, most of us, if we had to script our lives, would want it to be easy and want to have few bumps in the road and would want, health and not ever having to lose a house and not ever having to lose our parents. But in my experience, my personal experience, and this has really only multiplied since the doing angel card readings for folks and seeing where their struggles are at, I think that those are times of challenge where gifts of strength and gifts of love and compassion and reaching out, it gives us the chance to experience those things. If everything is cruising along with no major bumps in the road, you never think, well, geez, now I'm really brought low. I better pray. I better reach out. I better try and solve this, So it's, I think that at times of struggle, traumas, we don't wish them on people, but they can be catalysts for the amazing stuff inside to be tapped into.
Excellent. That's an excellent answer. Thank you, Mike. Before we go to station break, which is coming up in about 2 minutes or so, give us a little bit of a background, Roz, on angel therapy, and then a little bit on what angel cards are.
Okay. So the quick condensed version of it is that if you are someone who believes in angels, the belief is that in most cases, angels will not violate your free will. So they're here to help, to guide, protect you, but only in most cases if you ask for it. So you don't need to come to somebody who's an angel therapist to communicate with your angels. You can do it just as you can communicate with your dead loved ones. They can hear you. But we use the cards to help focus and to help find that answer that maybe is coming to you. Sometimes that guidance comes, but we don't notice it. So when you come to us for an angel card reading, you are of your own free will asking for assistance and communication. We use the cards. The angels are very loving, very soft, very positive and supportive guidance. So it's never anything harsh or scary or traumatic, but it's just always gentle, loving, and supportive guidance that we hopefully can communicate for people by using the cards.
Excellent. I love that. And I just think it's such a nice thing. So for those who are unsure also, now we talk about angels. Are angels for you and your belief in this very specific in the Christian belief of angels, or can there be, is there a wider meaning? Is it specific to that, or is it open to interpretation for what that means for people?
I think that it is open. If someone sits before us, we don't, ask to see their religious denomination card. To us, if we are created, if there is a divine connection, or if it's all a mystery that can't fully be proven, our faith is that messages and spiritual assistance is available to people. And if they're have too many reservations about the word angel, they're probably not going to, ask for a reading. So if they at least are open to that possibility that there's angelic assistance out there, then there's the possibility. And yeah, it doesn't matter to us. In our cases, we will use specific angel card decks to kind of, in our estimation, maybe tap into a certain angelic energy, and certain decks may have certain types of help that they offer. So that's how we employ it on our side. But for the person sitting in front of us, it's just keep an open mind.
Yeah, and I think that might be the key, because I believe I have a very open mind, and I'm not sure spiritually. My beliefs are all kind of all over the place, but when you guys did a reading for me, I was firmly engulfed in it, and I really felt that spiritualness involved in it. So I think it's great that you keep it open like that, because just because one person's interpretation is different than the other doesn't mean it doesn't all come from the same place, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Great. I'm glad that makes sense. We are coming up across the last station break. When we come back, we do have a member of our chat room that wouldn't mind having a brief angel card reading if you guys are up to it. And then we'll get some news on where you guys might be coming up, or where people can find out more information about angel card readings and the stuff you have going on. So stay tuned for more Keeping the Spirits Alive on letstalkradio.net. And we'll be back with you in just a minute.
If you call Other Talk talk stations, all you get is,
"Hello, we're sorry, but no one is available to answer your call at this time."
But at Let's Talk Radio, we're here for the best talk, news, and information 24 hours a day. Hear it here first or find out about the alien invasion tomorrow from someone else. Depend on us. Let'sTalkRadio.net.
Grow your business. At Signorama, we offer customized solutions for signs, branding, marketing, and advertising. We have a full range of custom sign and graphic services to meet your needs, build your brand, and create your image. Look around and you'll see how our specialists help businesses enhance their visibility and get noticed. Let us work with you to understand your unique marketing goals and help you reach them. Signorama, the way to grow your business. Meet with an expert at your local Signorama or visit us online anytime.
Let's Talk Radio. No inbreeding here.
What you trying to say, boy?
Our parents were strangers.
Doesn't he realize he's in one of them fancy political correct stations now? Let's talk. Let's talk about what?
Let'sTalkRadio.net.
NHL star Matt Martin for American Humane.
I've had my fair share of bruises and injuries. But for many who put their lives on the line every day, it's not always the injuries you can see that hurt the most. Every single day, 184 veterans are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. When medications and therapy don't help, professionally trained service dogs can. American Humane has created a free guide to help veterans obtain these life-saving animals. For help, please go to AmericanHumane.org.
Back to Keeping the Spirits Alive. We're live here on letstalkradio.net. Joining me this week and welcoming you back to the show, Rosalyn Bown and Michael Lewis. We are just about to go live with an angel card reading. Before the break, Rosalyn and Michael were telling us a little bit of what an angel card reading is and their thoughts on sort of the process behind it. We do have a person who expressed interest in a reading from our chat room. So Mike and Rosalyn, you'll be doing a reading today for Kathleen, who I know you're familiar with.
Yes.
Friendly on Facebook and such, and in the chat rooms for some of the other great shows here on Let's Talk Radio. So Kathleen is in the chat room, and she will be getting the reading. So whenever you're ready to start, go right ahead.
Okay, so, of course, you're not here. Usually we would be in front of you, and we could show you the cards. But in this case, we're going to pull 3 cards. Sometimes if we feel like we need a little extra clarification, we'll pull an extra. But for now, we're going to start with 3. We're going to tell you what we're getting, and we'll see if it's resonating. Okay, so our first card that we're flipping says, "Prayer will help this situation."
So one of the ways to get information, get help from these cards can be the literal, and see if that triggers insight. And sometimes there's a little bit of metaphor and interpretation. So Kathleen, if you are a praying person, this is the angelic side, the God side, saying, hey, we're here for you during life crises. But beyond that, this is also and just like I was speaking about when John asked me the question about traumas and life circumstances, don't neglect your spiritual side at this time. Whatever modes there are that you have employed in your life, don't neglect them when you're thinking about work situations, when you're thinking about relationships. Don't feel shy about asking for help. Sometimes we do. Sometimes there's parts of our personality that it's easier for us to pray for other people or think about their situations. And when it comes to us, we find ourselves maybe feeling alone in the boat. So this is to me, always a sign that whatever your spiritual practices are, whether they're organized and definitive, or just the things that help you focus and to reflect on, that you can do that and know that this message is coming to you. So there will be reciprocation when you start down that path and reach out.
And another thing that this card also comes up or brings up for me is that be open to responses or be open to results that differ from what your original expectations were. So if your mind is expecting one thing, whether it's about work, relationships, or things like that, sometimes what actually comes to us isn't what we thought we wanted or isn't what we had our sights set on. So just be open to those possibilities. Because again, with prayer and with angels, we're talking about things being guided in your direction. And often what's good for us isn't what we thought we wanted. Hopefully that resonates. I'm going to pull the next card. The second one says, use your imagination and you'll see the answer. This one, it's good. We love when we start to pull the cards, and honestly, in most cases, it almost starts to tell a story. And that's what we're seeing here. So we went from prayer will help the situation to use your imagination and you'll see the answer. Just what I just said about the first card. It's not always what we think it's going to be. So being open to more possibilities, whether you're using prayer to ask for things to be guided to you, or whether you're just using your awareness to notice good things that seem to be coming in your path. Sometimes things are repetitious where you think, wow, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep seeing this? Or why do I keep getting into conversations about this same topic with different people? Sometimes those things are coming to your attention because you need to notice them. So just be open to what comes and not to what you think things should be.
To me, I'm seeing the word imagination, and it's also giving me a sense of creativity. So that for someone who may indeed have artistic gifts, I've seen your photography online, and sometimes, again, in times of crisis and times of change, if we are creative people, if it's poetry, if it's journaling, if it's painting, if it's photography, if it's music, turning to our creative side during those times can create a release, and it can also sometimes help us talk back to ourselves. Like what comes out in our art during those time periods can be highly therapeutic.
Okay, and we're going to pull the final card. I know we're going to be bumping up against the clock soon. The final card says God is in charge.
So God is in charge. Again, quite literally, if this is something that sparks your spirituality, then it's that affirmation that here you are with questions, with problems, with things that are troubling you. And you don't have to go through this alone. And slightly expanded out is, again, an affirmation that of your spiritual side can sometimes take the lead when you're in crisis, when you're struggling with work, because that trickles into finances and trickles into other parts of life. So let this be a time of spiritual exploration, be it prayer or be it the other things that work for Kathleen.
And I'll finish up with my opinion on this card, which I agree completely with what Michael's getting. And just one other thing I want to add is that this is resonating with me because, we know Kathleen, we've met and we know each other online, and, we consider her to be a friend of ours. And I can say that I see in the struggle a lot of times with remembering that I'm guided and protected. A lot of times when we are going through challenges and it feels like life is throwing a bunch of things at us and almost like we're in a bit of a tailspin because you don't know which way is up anymore. Nothing seems steady. It's easy to forget that you're always guided and protected. So again, whether you take it literally and you look at it in a spiritual way, or you even just look at your friendship base, the people in your life that care about you, you're not walking alone. And don't forget to lean on those others because you have a very strong support system. And that's our reading.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, guys. Very much appreciate doing that on the spot here on the show. I'm sure Kathleen appreciates that, and the rest of the folks listening, kind of giving them a feel for what the angel card reading is all about. So fascinating stuff, and I think it is a really nice spin from what people may be familiar with, which are tarot cards. So just I know we talked a little bit about the angel cards and what they are, but give the listeners a brief overview of what the big differences between a tarot reading and an angel card reading are.
Some of it is really just perception. Tarot cards, a lot of times they have more of a literal, what's the word? How would you put that? As far as there's a lot of symbolism that's read a specific way. Where the thing with the angel cards is it's very open to interpretation. You really tune into your intuition to get the meaning. Angel cards they're not as specific. So again, it comes to connecting with the angels, connecting with the guidance, and using that to interpret the message. And again, it's also very, as we mentioned before, very gentle and loving, versus something else that might sometimes be a bit harsh. Sometimes with the tarot cards, some of the messages seem a little harsh, even though there's different meanings for them, but it's just kind of a different type of energy. It's a different feel to it.
I like that word, the energy, that because this does feel at once personal and inspired. So at that moment that we're giving a reading, we're asking that person to be open, just as we're open, and inspiration and intuition is flowing through us. So I'm not. I mean, there are many talented readers out there, but this makes sense to us in how angel cards work.
Thank you very much for explaining that, because I think a lot of people weren't sure really what the difference was, and why one might have one over the other, and or different times for different things. We have about 2 minutes left to the end of the show, so let me ask you guys: are there any spring-summer plans for appearances right now? If so, what are the current plans? And if either there are or not, where are the best places for folks that are listening to find out about what is coming up with you guys? And Roz, I know you also have a lot of great things that you sell: merchandise, jewelry, shirts, things that are just fantastic. Where can people find out what's going on with you guys and how to get their hands on some of the great stuff that you do?
Well, as far as the T-shirts are concerned, yes, I design T-shirts, and the best way to reach those is I have a Facebook page called Epic Paranormal Tees. Most of the posts up there are actually ones that are from the months in the past, but I have a big slew of new paranormal T-shirts coming that are all going to be available directly from Amazon.com. So it's a good and easy, quick, trusted way to get things. So that's one thing we have going on. We have some appearances that haven't been announced yet, so we can't talk about them. Okay. But the next thing we have coming up is actually going to be here in this area.
The Hudson Valley of New York. Yeah, the Ghost Magnets with a Twist, a paranormal group led by Red and Twisty, for those who may have seen them out at conventions. They are having us speak next month.
Yes.
At their 84 Diner meetup.
And that's on March 26th on a Monday night. So we're hoping people can join us for that. And the next announced appearance we have would then be the following month, April 13th and 14th. We'll be at Salem Con up in Salem, Massachusetts, with a good slew of people: Frank Sinelli, John Zaffis, Grant Wilson, Nick Groff, Scott Grunwald, Dave Giuliano, and we will all be speaking and doing some ghost hunts, and we'll be doing readings and just kind of hanging out and having a good time with people. Woohoo!
Well, those are super cool events. And just a little tidbit before we have to go. On the April meetup for Ghost Magnets with a Twist, yours truly will be the meetup host. So that'll be fun. 2 months in a row, three of my favorite people.
Yes, we're super excited about that. We will be there.
On that note, that does end this week's Keeping the Spirits Alive. Mike, Rosalyn, thank you so much for joining me. It was fantastic as always and super informative, so I really appreciate it, and appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me tonight, and our listeners as well. Thank you.
It's really a pleasure, John Tobin.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you. You're very welcome. Listeners, thank you again for tuning in tonight at letstalkradio.net. There'll be an announcement the next week or two when the next show will be. Stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you again soon. Have a great night.
Thanks. Good night.